Today we are up on part of the Begley Wildlife Management Area. We are trying to trap elk in this area for the Missouri project.
Missouri decided to do an elk restoration because elk are native to Missouri, and certainly it's a charge of the Department of Conservation to restore once native species. They were extirpated in the 1860s, and so about 10 years ago we actually did a feasibility study and looked at the possibility of doing a restoration, and we picked out basically a small part of the eastern Ozarks, an area. But then CWD came along and put that whole process on hold, and so just recently we reconsidered an elk restoration and decided to go forward.
The state of Missouri is now starting a smaller scale elk restoration project in a portion of their state. And they came to us and to our commissioners and asked if we could be a host state for some elk for them. Because again, our elk herd has done so well and we have such a healthy herd, and we are close to them. They came to us to say, hey, can you guys help us out and be a source herd for our restoration project?
You know, I remember years and years ago a trip to Kansas, and at that time, the only thing we could think about was, these are coming to Kentucky.
Right.
We couldn't imagine that this would work so well.
Right.
That other states would look at us and say, we want to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how, you know, to watch this thing
Right.
grow like it has and be so successful. Now we got other states, not more than just Missouri.
It's pretty exciting, and it's a chance for us to pay it forward. You know, 6 states out west gave us elk,
Right.
and they gave us 1,500 elk to get our herd established.
It's amazing how much time and effort both Missouri and Kentucky have put into this whole process. You know, we're really appreciative of the fact that Kentucky recognizes that somebody provided elk for them, and they're in the process of providing elk for somebody else.
Missouri is not looking at anything nearly as ambitious as what we've done. They just don't have the country to do it in. But they would eventually like to have a few hundred elk. They'd like to have a big enough herd that they can offer some elk hunting.
We're going to be releasing them in southeastern Missouri. It's in an area that's considered Ozark, heavily forested, you know, somewhere between 80 and 90% forested, and very little agriculture. When we did the feasibility study, the lack of agriculture was a key element, so we didn't want to create the conflicts that elk and agriculture sometimes have. You know, I think a lot of people are real excited about an elk restoration. They like the thought of seeing an elk in the wild. Some like the thought of being able to hunt possibly an elk in the wild, and so in general, I think good public acceptance of it. That's one thing we did before we even consider restoration is poll the public and hold some public meetings. And while there is always some opposition to something like this, in general, we had pretty good public support for it.
Let's go to the area where you're actually going to trap the animal, where all this begins, and that is done obviously by enticing them. You know, it's cold right now. They're looking for a, you know,
free meal,
a cheap meal. So we entice them in with that. We get them into this area, and then you immediately. What happens when you get some in that trap?
What happens is we've got 2 trap sites within a mile of here, and basically what we do is our local staff say, we've been seeing a group of 30 or so cows in this area. We pour out corn in, you know, about a 12 or 15 foot circle. And we pour that out day after day until they find it. And the thing about elk is once they find it, they'll keep coming back. Once we see, either through observation, you know, we have people watching those sites, or through tracks and sign that we've got a group of elk using that, we'll come in and construct a corral trap. They are pretty relaxed about that. The first couple times they see it, they're a little bit, we don't really want to go in there, but boy, that bait sure smells good. Once you get them going in that trap, when they get 15 or so cows and calves in there, then we'll drop that door, and it's got a chute on it so you can back a livestock trailer to it. Run them in that trailer, carry them over here, and in they go. What we've got is we've got 3 corrals, and each one can hold 15 to 20 elk. And each one has its own water source and whatnot. And they're all connected to this central runway. And once we get all the animals in there, all 50 animals that are going to go to Missouri, what we'll do is we'll come in and work them all up for the disease testing. And we'll take them one pen at a time. We'll run them into this system. And what happens is we get them in this pen, They come around through a chute and into this, what we call a crowding tub. And that's sort of the staging area. And then 3 animals at a time. We've got 3 little holding chutes here. We'll be run into these chutes. And one at a time, they'll be put into this, what we call a squeeze chute, and it's got a head gate. What happens is you get this animal in here and you squeeze him down to where he can't move. Somebody's at his head pulling blood. We've got a bunch of blood tests that got to be run.
What are your tags on?
We're going to ear tag them. We're going to put a microchip in them. We're going to pull the blood samples and some other hair samples. We've got a veterinarian from USDA Vet Services that will come in and do the tuberculosis skin test. All the animals that came into Kentucky went through this same rigorous testing protocol. And so we had no diseased animals come in. We are a TB and brucellosis-free state, and so we don't have any concerns about disease. But we still have to go through this whole protocol before these animals can be shipped to Missouri. Once we get them all worked up, we'll turn them back into the pen for 2 days. Then they have to all be gathered up again so that they can look at that injection site for that tuberculosis test. Once they've been run through this whole process that second time, they'll be turned back into their corrals, and they will stay here in Kentucky for 90 days. And obviously we'll be monitoring and taking care of them for those 90 days.
What's the relationship of cows versus bulls?
There'll be a few bull calves that are in the mix, and then there will be some yearlings, some spike bulls. So there'll be about 16 males in the group, give or take a couple.
Now, obviously, these cows, what, 98% of them are probably...
Pretty much all of them that are over 2.5 will be pregnant.
Wow.
And that's part of the timeline we're on. We've got to get all these animals captured by the end of this month, by the end of January, so that we can start that 90-day clock, because we want to ship them to Missouri in April before they start calving. Come April, we'll do another round of disease testing, one last time, to make sure that nothing's happened, nobody's developed anything, and then we will load them on a commercial livestock trailer, and they will go to Missouri.
We want to point out that with us helping Missouri with these 50 elk this year, that will not lead to a decrease in the total number of tags being offered for hunters to hunt elk in Kentucky.
50 elk, in the big scheme of what we have, is pretty small potatoes. The beauty of it is the area where we are right now, we've had some problems with elk getting down into a community and causing damage. And we are actually trying to trap those animals. We are trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We're helping Missouri, but we're also helping ourselves in that we're dealing with a nuisance issue that's been a problem for years.
What do you see in the next 10 or 15 years as far as elk throughout the east of the Mississippi?
Well, a lot of people don't realize Pennsylvania, Michigan, Tennessee, Arkansas, there are states that already have small elk herds that have been there since before we got ours. And there are those who dream of a contiguous elk herd from, Pennsylvania all the way down the Appalachian chain into Tennessee. Historically, they were here. 150 years ago, there were elk all over the eastern United States. And for a long time, they didn't have them out west. Most of the western elk actually were reintroduced from the Yellowstone area. And so, sky's the limit.